Hi, hi, and welcome to this webinar on how to get ahead of the competition when it all picks up after COVID and all that. I'm Philippe Wayland, founder of co-founder of Partywall Pro and now surveykit.io. SurveyKit, which is our latest edition, which is a software for scheduler conditions that you can do on your phone, everything on your phone, which is quite handy. And you might have noticed this is an automated webinar. It's actually because I had to pre-record it. It's just because I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in the background, and they keep interrupting. So I thought I'll record it. It might be easier. The reason why I wanted to do this is because a lot of my customers actually came to me and asked, what they should do in these difficult times, and what they can do because it's they don't have much work on. Try to take this time to build something that will help them in the long run. And I thought, I gave them a few tips in there, and I thought, well, why not try to share it with people. As you obviously know, there are plenty of unknown around the long-term impact of COVID on economies around the world and on other things, and specific sectors like construction and especially the consultancy services behind that. But one thing is for sure is that we will pay for it for a while longer. Not COVID necessarily, but the economic consequences of it. But again, uncertain times always kind of bring opportunities. So opportunities to reposition yourself, opportunities to reposition your business, reassess your operations, and address fundamental weaknesses that cost a business time and money. And rather than lament ourselves on negatives, I thought I'll kind of give an overview of the positive things that you should focus on in order to come out of this in a better, leaner and stronger position, a bit like what Joe Wicks is doing with your health right now, hopefully. So in this presentation, which I think I will actually, I'll put the slides on because you probably don't want to look at my face for half an hour. So here we are. Here's the title. So in this presentation, I'll try to give you a few ideas on, first of all, how to make sure instructions come flowing back once lockdown eases more substantially. It's eased a bit, but we're not there yet, so there's still time. The second is what you can do in order to run a more efficient practice when you have a remote team. So this is obviously this new world order of people working from home, and that I think needs some adaptation from a lot of people. And if you're a one-man band, how you can position yourself to help bigger players, because there will be a need there, especially when people kind of stop traveling as much as they have in the past. And the third point is how to become more profitable on the way, because margins are getting smaller, and it is only in addressing inefficiencies that you'll be able to increase profitability. So what can you do now to make sure instruction levels pick up again? So let's start looking at government advice. What applies to you? As a lot of people have said, it's not crystal clear, but you just need to use a bit of common sense, really. That was nicely illustrated in a tweet from Steve Way of Collier Stevens. More businesses moaning on the news and wanting government to tell them what to do. Come on, do you really think government has time for that? It's up to you to adapt your business. Work within the guidelines. If you don't, your competitors will. Which is exactly what I think too. Let's have a look at this guidance. So how to read it. So the guidance on working safely during COVID includes a section that deals with people working in, visiting or delivering to other people's homes. That's the title of it. I guess surveyors fall or can fall in that category. It contains the usual stuff about social distancing at work, your obligations to inform staff about risks and precautions to take, etc., which you know and which you obviously have done, hopefully. But it also deals with how to interact with householders. Of course, without too much detail, but also what to do before visiting someone's home, and that's quite relevant because it applies now, and it's going to continue applying for quite a bit. These are all kind of common sense tips that you should make sure you communicate to existing and potential clients. It's all about demonstrating your customers that you are looking after their well-being, and I think that's quite crucial there. Obviously, don't just stick to the text, but look at it critically and pragmatically. Keep in mind that even after the lockdown is completely lifted, certain people will still be anxious to mingle with people they don't know. I think that's going to stay with people for a while. So better prepare now for this new paradigm. So the first thing is what to do before a visit. So a site visit, that what does that include? Is a schedule a condition for party wall or your general surveying visits. So the first thing is who are you actually sending on the site from your team? So make sure that person is not clinically vulnerable or extremely vulnerable. That's the two definitions. I was supposed to have windows fitted in my place just the week the lockdown started, and now that they've eased the lockdown, I sent the guy an email asking, I can socially distance while you do that. Can you send you guys over? So I would be the first ones on their list. And the guy came back to me and said, actually, 2 out of my 3 fitters are vulnerable people. So he still can't send them. So that's something that you really want to look at. So the definitions of extremely vulnerable people and vulnerable people is as follows. So the extremely vulnerable people, I think you should know if some of your employees or staff members are already categorized as extremely vulnerable, because they would have received a letter from their GP. These include people with specific cancers, severe respiratory conditions, or people on immunosuppression therapies. The vulnerable people, these are people that are at increased risk from COVID. So people age 70 or over and with underlying health conditions. So people with kind of chronic heart, kidney, or liver disease, or even diabetes. So keep that in mind. So that's the first thing that you really need to look into. Second thing is to make sure that the person you're actually visiting or whose home you're visiting is not clinically extremely vulnerable or clinically vulnerable. That's the terminology. So this is kind of a bit more difficult to implement, right? As you'll need to get in touch with them. I would recommend to get in touch with them before and have them confirm preferably in writing that it's not the case. It's important because it shows you care, but also that you're covering yourself. So do that, and it'll go a long way. And the third point is explain to the owner how you are planning on social distancing while doing your visit. I would explain in a letter or in an email how it will happen from the moment you get there and they open their door until you leave their property. Try to reassure them beforehand. So tell them you'll be wearing PPE and tell them the procedure exactly. This will again show them that you have thought about it. Put all these points in a correspondence that will go out to them at least a week before, and then maybe just keep the kind of communication flow going until you show up. And this is the kind of stuff that gets people talking and recommending a firm to their neighbors because it shows you care. And don't forget that people are now talking to their neighbors more than ever. Not talking in person, but mainly through WhatsApp groups. And WhatsApp has actually become a super powerful communication tool. So my street, which is quite long, we have like hundreds of people on our group. Talking about it, this is a little tip that could actually work as a kind of a promotional tool that is free and with a potential of virality. What I would do if I were you is ask a few of your clients with whom you've got a good relationship, to ask them to recommend you or your services to their WhatsApp group, because it's a solid, trustworthy source of referrals, and that could potentially generate a lot of instructions. Why? Because it's localized, and it's because it is a channel that brings people to trust it, or trust recommendations. So have a think about that and how you could actually implement that. So the second thing is really to you need to show you care. And just ask yourself the question: would you be comfortable letting a stranger into your home without PPE, or knowing they had come by public transport? The answer is probably no, right? You'd be like, okay, where did you come from? And it'd be a bit uncomfortable, probably. So your mission is therefore to give as much information as possible to the owners, for them to give them the confidence to actually open their front door. So what would you like to know about what a stranger coming to your home, what kind of information you want from them? Has he been tested? How has he come to you today? On foot, bicycle, car, public transport? All these things will be on people's minds for a while. Your mission is really to try and reassure them. So how do you do that? I think the first thing is to communicate that you as a firm are taking all necessary steps to prevent any spreading of the disease. So why not shoot a small video showing the type of measures you've put in place, and put the video on your homepage for potential customers to see? If I had to pick between a firm that has done that and a firm that doesn't show that they're even thinking about it, I'll obviously go for the first one. If video is not your thing, take a couple of pictures of your staff with PPE. That kind of reassures people looking at your website, or just simply put in text what measures you've put in place, and put that on your homepage, on your front page for people to see when they get on there. Second thing is prepare an email to send to your list. So I'm sure you've got a list of customers and your kind of recurring customers, commercial or residential, and send them an email saying, these are the measures that we've put in place. Feel free to give us a call if you need us. And again, this can go a long way. For commercial clients, knowing they work with someone who has taken appropriate measures will be a godsend for someone who wants to make sure that his supply chain is looking into it. For individuals, an email is easily forwarded. If I have a friend that is looking for a party wall surveyor, if I have an email like that in my inbox, I'll just click forward. It helps to kind of stay on top of their mind as well. Also, try to confirm that your initial due diligence will cover finding out who lives in the property and whether they are vulnerable or extra vulnerable people. That again, it goes to show that you care. It's really worth making the effort on that one. Look after the owner's well-being in the kind of same vein, but on your way to the property, give the owner a quick call, asking them if they've felt any symptoms. This is to protect your staff, and also that you can confirm that you're in good health, and then saying that you have come on foot or bicycle, or confirming that you haven't actually taken public transport, unless you have, of course. And then once on site, follow the script that you've shared with the owner. Have them open the door, stay 2 meters away, and tell them you will be putting a mask on if you haven't done so already, and gloves. Confirm which method of transport you took to get there, again, just in case someone else opens the door. And then, before you go in, just explain and politely ask them to isolate in a room as you do your inspection around their home. Ask them to move rooms at the end in order to finish the survey, obviously, and then follow up with an email or phone call when you're done. The other thing, and this is actually quite important, try to declutter. So what do I mean by that? Declutter on site is, that actually reminds me, when someone came to my home to do a schedule, the guy had a rucksack, had a document folder, had a dictaphone, a camera, and a camera case. He put everything on my kitchen table, opened his document holder. There were papers everywhere. It's not something you can do in kind of post-COVID era. So what I mean by declutter is come with the minimum of stuff on you, because if you have a dictaphone and a camera and pen and paper, you can't, you only have two hands. You will have to put something on the floor, and that can cross-contaminate, or that can be seen as cross-contaminating. And this is why having a system that you can do everything on your phone is handy. And this is why Survey Kit, what we've developed, is actually, it's phone based. You can use it on your phone or a tablet, but having just the phone, when you come in, you can dictate, take pictures on your phone. You don't have to put anything down, and it looks much more professional as well. And also with that in mind is when people using digital cameras within the office, how are you going to do that now with teams of people that are working from home? And also, cameras, if they change hands and stuff, you got to clean them. So think about trying to do schedules or any kind of survey using a phone. So, and there's several solutions out there. So that's kind of the stuff COVID related. On the other kind of non-COVID, what you can do now to help people instruct you is try and be proactive. A couple of things that I've seen actually, I've seen emails going around. Someone was actually quite proactive. Is try to partner up with architects, project managers in doing a virtual project assessment session. You can partner up with builders or project managers or architects to do a kind of a virtual one-stop shop where owners can start to visualize what their project would look like, to help it bring it as close to shovel ready as possible, so that they know that once everything gets lifted, they can just switch on. So you can help them prepare the architectural designs and planning applications in all sorts. For the kind of party wall side of things, you can just educate them. That's easily done. You can use Zoom, Skype, or FaceTime. Zoom is obviously you got to pay for if you have more than I think one person on the call. Skype is free for one-to-one, and FaceTime is free too. So you can screen share and show them drawings and ideas to build a relationship of trust. And that's the important thing, is keep top of mind and build trust while everyone is stuck at home. It's also, again, staying on top of people's minds, and when restrictions eventually lift completely, they'll go to you instead of your competitor. Another thing is maybe it's time to look outside of London. There's a shift in mentalities now. Estate agents have actually got a lot of instructions on looking for outside of London. It's happening in France too. It's definitely a trend that coronavirus has started. Maybe less for party wall per se, if someone was buying a house in the middle of a field, but it might be worth talking to your connections in outside of London, looking at partnerships in the countryside to see if you can work in new geographical areas. It's a long-term strategy, but it'll definitely pay off. The third thing is building assets. So now you have time now to do stuff that you don't generally have time for. And what is that? It's kind of building assets. And what do I mean by assets? It's usually kind of intellectual property, things that you can prepare now and use for the foreseeable future. An example of that, I was talking to one of my customers, is he's working on preparing educational material for architects and project managers and builders to teach them about the Act and from a practical kind of standpoint. This is stuff that you finally have time to work on, and stuff that you'll be able to use for years to come. So it's really worth looking at these kind of assets. So other things are blog posts or vlogs, video blogs, right? To boost your SEO. Now is the time to do it. Busy people have put all these things on hold because it's not immediately revenue generating, but now is the perfect time to do that. Look around, look at what your competition is doing, and try to do that. It takes a bit of work, of course, but that will pay off, especially SEO. and you'll see your kind of Google ranking can actually get much better relatively quickly. If you do these kind of things. Another thing you want to be looking at right now is how you operationally run your business. And this is always stuff that people always put on hold because they're too busy to look at this. But now is the time again. This means you need to look at your inefficiencies and address them. Every business has these kind of clunky spreadsheets and systems that are slowing productivity or taking too much time of potential billing hours. But you never have time to address these. So have a look at these, and it's an opportunity to trim fat and increase efficiencies, especially in this new world order. And this is the kind of stuff I help my Party Wall Pro customers with. And this is why I'm doing this. So that leads us to how to run a more efficient and cost-effective practice in this new world. So what is this new world? People are working from home, outside of the office. It's business as usual, but it's going to take some time to adapt. In a matter of weeks, working from home has become the rule rather than the exception, right? Millions of people are working remotely without any face-to-face interaction with colleagues or bosses. And this was like inconceivable back in February, but we've done it, and for most of us, it's working very well. Some of us are actually really enjoying it, and big firms are now actually considering sticking to working from home forever. Twitter announced the other day that it gave its employees the right to continue working from home as they saw fit. So big corporations see this as an opportunity to save on real estate costs, and some even put into question the necessity to all converge around big cities. This is something that will impact surveyors. So what does that mean for you? It means you need to learn to manage a dispersed team efficiently. I was reading an article on the RICS website about the idea of managing a dispersed team, and it had a few good points. And I kind of quote, employing dispersed workers definitely makes management harder. These people don't bump into other members of staff or create informal conversations, so they don't develop a sense of what is happening around them. So managers have to agree times to talk, catch up, and report in. This is obviously not easy, because it can often appear to signal a return to old-fashioned command and control management. Now that we're not sharing an office, it's not as easy to get a sense of where we're at on a job. So what people tend to do is having more regular conference calls. So of course you have the COVID hero, which is Zoom, but the free, look at the free options like Google Hangouts. That's for multiple callers. Google Hangouts is actually still free. Skype, you need to kind of go on to the premium version, and FaceTime is good for one-to-ones. There are other things like that. If you want to stay in contact with kind of written communication, you should absolutely try Slack. I'll show you screenshots of their page. It's they have a free package that actually goes a long way. You can drop files, take pictures, and drop them, share them, and integrate with lots of other software out there, which is quite good. I use that a lot. This kind of helps people stay on top of the workload in a team setting. And this is very important because you can't just pop in to talk to your colleagues anymore, and that takes a phone call. So if you want to just check if he has received the drawings or if he's done a schedule, how are you going to do that? And this is where systems that are kind of on the cloud computing, like Party Wall Pro, pays off, because all your team members are connected on the same platform, and you can see exactly who has done what on what job and when. They can even leave comments under a particular job for the rest of the team to see. You get a call from an owner, and you can check straight away on Party Wall Pro where the matter is at, who has done what on which job. Guarantee consistency. So that's another thing. It's another issue you'll encounter. Is to make sure that the deliverables you produce or your team produce, i.e. the notices, the awards, schedule conditions, are consistent. In an office, when a junior or assistant prepares a notice or award, the boss will have a look over it before it goes out, right? And when a team is dispersed, keeping a tight quality control over things going out the door is actually trickier, especially when systems are not connected in the best of ways. So, meaning that one of your junior guys will prepare an award, and but take a precedent that is actually outdated. So again, make sure you have a system in place that guarantees that every document produced by your team are the same. And again, this is where you want to invest in a system that can help with producing these consistent documents from the cloud. This means every team member can produce notices, correspondence, awards with exactly the same look and feel and exactly the same base content. And that's important because there's a kind of a flow in your the work that is shared between your team members. With Partywall Pro, for example, you can even upload your own firm precedents. So we prepare your precedents, we put them on the system, and then all your team members have actually access to exactly the same documents, and they can produce from there. Same for survey kit. So for scheduler conditions, you need to, if you have a system in place to take pictures and dictate, if everyone is actually starting from a different kind of word template, it will look very different. Survey kit, it will generate the exact same document for everyone. And you can upload your firm logo and details, and so every schedule has the same look and feel. Also, avoid duplicating tasks. While at the office, you can ask someone to issue notices, a draft award, or select a third surveyor, and then ask them to update a spreadsheet. But when working from home, you won't necessarily know if that spreadsheet is the latest version, even if it's on the cloud thing, because someone might get distracted with their 3-year-old, like I am constantly. And so this is something that you really need to kind of keep an eye on. And this will take time and energy and slow you down. So this is when you want to have a system where when they issue a notice, that particular spreadsheet that you all look at gets updated automatically. So this also means that you do not need a dedicated member of staff to look after these important spreadsheets. They kind of look after themselves. And this again drives efficiency and reduces cost. Another thing is to monitor work efficiently. So same applies to kind of job assignments. You may not necessarily know how busy your team members are when they're working from home, right? This is something that you would have picked up while seeing them in the office, but now this is becoming harder. And again, having a system where you know who's actually working on what, on how many jobs, is kind of beneficial, because when a new job comes in, you know who to assign it for straight away. If you had a dashboard with all your team names that could show you their level of productivity, you'd be able to assign jobs efficiently and without having to call people on a daily basis saying, yeah, what's your capacity like, blah, blah, blah. This is, again, something that Partywall Pro does. Partywall Pro is not just a document production tool. So think of like how you can develop these kind of systems that will help manage a team. Another thing is updating owners when requested, right? The likelihood of having more frequent team meetings is quite high while staff are working from home, right? Especially if you don't have proper systems in place. The problem with that is that people get sick of being on Zoom calls. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls, and I'm really getting tired of it, especially when my internet is not working properly. And it does lead to a drop in motivation and quality of work. So keep that in mind. So having systems that kind of update themselves and facilitate a communication flow leads to generally a high level of motivation and people focusing on core work as opposed to admin that takes time and affects productivity. So having centralized cloud-based systems that are constantly updated whenever someone does something on a particular jobs comes in very handy if an owner, especially if an owner calls you out of the blue, because you'll just pick up the phone, and if an owner calls you now, you can't just turn around and ask your colleagues, yeah, where are you on this job? You're going to have to hang up the phone, call the person at home, and ask about it, which is not really the most professional and efficient way. This is where I think a tool like Slack could be helpful. It's kind of an instant messaging service, right? Where you can drop all kinds of documents and share them instantly. So while on the phone, you could send a message quickly and say, can you tell me what is happening on Oxford Street on this job, and drop a message. They can drop their spreadsheet for you to have a look at. But if that person is having lunch with his family or putting his kids in front of TV for his next conference call, there's nothing you can do. This is where Particle Pro is so convenient. Go to that particular job and you'll see exactly where the job is at. You can even generate an up-to-date spreadsheet with all necessary details that you can then share with your owner in an email. Another thing is lower hardware costs, right? Cloud computing's main financial benefit is obviously on hardware. Before cloud computing, offices had to kind of upgrade their hardware much more frequently. Now you can do things on personal laptops or even phones. With COVID-19, when people working from home, what are you going to do with your kind of digital cameras and dictaphones that people used to share in an office for scheduled conditions or surveys? So you want solutions that actually can work on their personal phones or tablets, but you can't really expect them to buy a tablet. So I think phones are the way forward. And again, this is why we've actually focused survey kits on phones. The cameras are much better, and it just fits in your pocket, and everyone has a smartphone nowadays. So you don't have to invest in hardware. New opportunities. So I want to cover kind of new opportunities because we have to be a bit positive about all this. There will definitely be a need for kind of key location consultant. In the next few months, people will be less likely to agree to a schedule or survey on the other side of London, probably, right? Because they will want to avoid a long commute. More and more people are going to take their cars, so traffic is probably going to increase. So unless you're on a motorbike, you don't want to cycle across London. So if you have people that are located on the other side of London, that's great. But most of us won't have. So it's an opportunity to leverage your physical location or that of your dispersed team. So if you're lucky enough to have like a team that are working from home in the four corners of London, that's great. So look into that, right? For the one-man band, advertise. You should advertise your consultancy services. You can offer colleagues and competitors that are in different areas, and work out, expanded kind of cross-referral arrangements. And it can lead to new revenue streams and a broadening of your professional network. So have a think about that. How you can kind of market your geography. And of course, the argument of consistency is important here too. Some of my Particle Pro clients, like the bigger ones, they add their consultants to the software so that they kind of can keep an eye on what they're doing, but more importantly, the guarantee of consistency of the documents and the correspondence they produce. And same goes for the schedules of condition. If you have a wide network of consultants you know and trust, you can take jobs further afield without worrying about having to commute, because you have someone in the area that can do it for you. But you then need a tool that will produce something that is consistent with what you are producing, what your firm is producing. Again, opportunities for individuals. I think go out there and offer your services as a consultant for firms that are not necessarily present in your local area. And again, so that's what I was saying about look outside of London. If you are lucky enough to be located outside of London, there may be opportunities there. So, and if you're a motorcyclist, offer your services in kind of a bigger radius. That's a good thing to do. Use that as a tool, saying, I'm on a bike. So with actually Survey Kit, we kind of thinking of offering a community network solution, meaning that one user could actually be easily referred to by another. That's something that we're looking at. So if you were a user, you could actually get instructed by another user. Last point is the social distancing, the process. So It's the concept of social distancing, the party wall process. What does that mean? It's you would tell normally you would tell your building owner to go and talk to your neighbors, right? Or to their neighbors, sorry, to make sure they things work out smoothly. However, nowadays in this kind of COVID era, you will not recommend that, and it's not going to go down well. So you probably need to be a bit more creative. So why not offer kind of a WhatsApp group per job, controlled by you, in which you kind of introduce the BOs and AOs, and they can actually you can all chat. You could use Slack for this kind of stuff too. You put them in a group together, and you can drop documents and ideas and comments in there. We've developed, and it's funny because we've seen an enormous spike in its usage. We've developed an online acknowledgement form. So it's we kind of, let me actually show you. You can see here it's we add a password and a link for adjoining owners to be able to fill out their acknowledgement form online. And this is actually perfect now because people don't want to go to the post office or to even the post box down the road. So people have been using that much more, and it just speeds up the process. And again, this is something that you can advertise on your website, saying, we have this functionality that helps speed up the process. And for building owners, that does it kind of helps them to decide who to instruct. So because getting responses from adjoining owners can be quite difficult. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. Here are my details, my email address, and our websites. Survey Kit, we currently have a free trial while this pandemic is keeping us at home. We thought it might be fun for surveyors to have a play with it, to do a schedule of your own home while you're stuck in it. So give it a go. Go on the website, download the app, and have a play. If not, feel free to get in touch via email. Nice talking to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Bye.